Yesterday we saw a diversion from the usual, right, which seems to be appropriate for Masech the Baba Basra. Then we digressed into the sugya of Reb Chanina, whether you go roiv or koroiv, which goes ahead first. In other words, if you're going to go after roiv, the halacha will be so. If you go after koroiv, the halacha will be so. Where do you go after? And we said you go after roiv. We spoke at the beautiful Chem de Shloima that roiv is a birur, it explains things. Rather, koroiv is just halacha, is a gzeres hakosiv that, it's not telling you that it is the person's, but you give it to that person. On the other kind of roiv, you're saying it is that person, right? It's a tremendous difference, and we spoke out. So we're continuing that sugya, questioning the shita of roiv or karoiv. Why you say you go after roiv? We're going to give a few cases where apparently you're going to be going after karoiv. So we're up to Chaft Gimel Amid Beis. We're 5 lines from the bottom. Tashma. The Mishnah said, Nimsa bein shnei shayvchais. If you find the bird between two shayvchais, karv lezeh shalai, the karv lezeh shalai, whichever one is closer, you're going to go and give it to. Now, fellas, the havamina is that since we didn't discuss 50 amas, right? We're speaking about a bird that's not a hopping bird. Yesterday we spoke about the bird, the hopping bird. Why you don't go after roiv? Because it's going to be within 50 amas, right? So this bird is within 50 amas. Is the Gemara now the havamina is it's outside 50 amas, and even if the maskana it's going to be after 50 amas, but it'll still be a hopping bird. Okay, we're going to see what that means. Even though there are more birds in one of the coops, the other one, nonetheless, you're going to go ahead, whichever is karoiv, you're going to give it to. Alma, what do you see? Roiv and karoiv, you go after karoiv. Because one of the coops has 30 pigeons, the other one has 10 pigeons. If it's closer to the 10 pigeons, it's going to give it to the 10 pigeons, despite the fact that there is a roiv on the other coop. Hachamayaskinon, sheshneim shavin. We're not a 30-10 with 30-30, or 10-10. Same thing, same amount. Fred the Gemara now, Velezel Basa Ruba da Alma. So now, the assumption is, fellas, that these are flying birds. If they're flying birds, you're not limited to the 50 amma mark. The 50 amma mark is only about hopping birds, correct? The 50 amma mark is speaking about hopping birds, fledglings that have not learned to fly yet. But over here, l'chayra, you're speaking about, since you didn't mention 50 amas, we're speaking about any bird that can fly in. Oh, once you're speaking about any bird that can fly in, why do you give it to the guy that's karoiv? If you go after roiv, go after roiv of the world, and the person who finds it should get it. Because roiv of the world is not here between these two coops. So again, if it's speaking about chutzpah michamishim amma, and we're dealing with flying birds, then why do you go after karoiv? If you just told me you go after roiv, let's go ruba da alma, and this bird must have came from the outside. That's why I read the Gemara, Rashi. The lezel basa ruba da alma, and it should go ahead and belong to the one who found it. Because because we're thinking about it at this point, the nimtza ben shtei shayvchais, achutz the chamishim amakoi. It's going on outside of 50 amas. The nafik lemi Torah's madada, that it's leaving the Torah of what? Hopping birds. So as I read the Gemara, a great kasha. And for the Gemara, hachamay askinon, bishvil shel kromim. We're speaking about two coops that are found on a path of kromim. It's found on a path of vines. Dim isa de ma'alma asa, because if it came from ma'alma, if it came from the outside, kivin de midade, since it's happening leimatzi asi, it couldn't come. So now we're changing it. We thought that it's speaking about flying birds. We thought it's speaking about outside 50 amas. No, we're really speaking about what? We're speaking about birds that they hop along. You didn't mention 50 amas. Says Rashi. Let's see Rashi. Bishvil shel kromim, dal yedei kromim nadada chutz l'chamishim amma. As a result of the vineyards, they're going to go ahead and go beyond the 50 amma mark, right? They're going to go as long as they're within the kromim, they will go beyond the 50 mark. Umiyu basa ruba alma lekal. We can't go after what ruba alma, guys. Once we're speaking about hopping birds, there is no roiv. There's no roiv alma. The cholamadada b'chazi lekanya, any hopping bird that goes ahead and sees its nest, kishemach s'roishem, when it turns its head around, madada, it'll go ahead and continue to hop. Eloi, and if not, loy madada, it's not going to continue to hop. So since it's and the high ima alma say lematzi chazi lekanye, if it came to alma, hop, it wouldn't be able to see its nest. The kromim mafsikin lefanov, because the kromim would go ahead and be mafsik in front of it. So again, a lumdish teretz from Rashi. Okay, kasha. If it's speaking about flying birds, why do you go after koroiv, right? Right, go after Ruba de Alma and give it to the one who found it. And for the Gemara, we're not speaking about flying birds. We're speaking about hopping birds. So we have two shayfchais. They're located between the kromim. By the kromim being there, it's going to extend the 50 amma mark. It's going to extend the 50 amma mark because they go from one to the other. What about maybe a bird from the outside hopping in? They're not going to hop in because they're not going to go hop more than the nest that they can see. And since there are vines over here, they won't be able to see that nest. And the male, we know for sure that it didn't come alma. So the only shiloh is which is what? Roiv or karoiv. There's no roiv because we're speaking they're both equal. So therefore you go after karoiv. Flying birds, we're speaking about hopping birds. Right. And now, how do you know it didn't happen ma'alma? It didn't happen ma'alma because no bird, in other words, you ever see a little kid? Like my daughter's in camp. She says she trusts her daughter because she goes a certain distance and then she turns around and sees if she's looking. She'll always want to go ahead and keep sight of the bungalow. So therefore, it's only by a girl, not by a boy. but it's a boy she wouldn't trust for a second, right? Anyway, says the Gemara. If it came from the outside and then you go Ruben Alma, came in the midday, since it's hopping, it couldn't come, it wouldn't be able to come between the kromim. Why? The chol midday, any hopping bird, the hadar, midday, if it's able to go ahead, turn around and see its nest, it'll continue hopping. The loy midday, and if not. And therefore, since it's the kromim, it can't see its nest, and therefore you don't have to worry about Alma. Bottom line is, roiv or karoiv, there's no roiv over here because they're equal to shayvchais, right? And therefore you give it to the karoiv because there's no roiv. Rabbi, and we also learned this. Now, only the Gemara could do this. We go, as Swilly Bernstein is wanting to say, mimerchak tavi lachma. We go from Baba Basra to Masechta Nida. So a little biological, this did not work out in Masechta Nida biologically. There is the prosder, which is the vaginal canal. There's the makar, the source, which is the uterus. And then there's something called the aliyah, the attic. And the attic is closer to the outside of the woman than the uterus. The uterus is like a averted pear. And it's so only blood from the uterus is damnida. Blood from what we call the aliyah is not. I will go ahead again. I'm not arguing on the Gemara, but for biological emiskite, I'll call the aliyah the cervix. I'll call the aliyah. I checked this out with my daughter. My daughter is a bodeket. She's a bodeket. So I described the Gemara, and she said, what the Gemara is calling the aliyah sounds like the cervix. What's she baidik? She's able to be baidik and see whether the dam comes from the cervix or the dam comes from the uterus. So in Hebrew terms, if it comes from the makar, it's what? Tameh. If it comes from the aliyah, the cervix, we'll call the cervix, then it's tahar. Now, which is karoiv and which is roiv? Roiv, I assume when women bleed, most of the time, it's from the makar. A miyut will come from the aliyah. The aliyah is karuv. It's karuv to the outside. Says the Gemara. Rabbi, afananami tanina, dam shen. And this is Reb Chanina's din, guys. Afananami tanina, Reb Chanina's din. That roiv and karuv, you're going to go after roiv. So, guys, in this case, if you find blood, if you go after roiv, she's going to be tamei because it comes from the makar. Dam shenimsa beproister. You find dam in the canal. Sveikoi tame. The suffix where it came from, yatame. Shecheskasle min hamakar. When muchzik, where did it come from? It came from the makar, from the uterus. The afagav the ikka aliyah the mekarva, even though there's the aliyah, we'll call the cervix, which is closer to the outside, and you're finding it in the proster, which, so in other words, the aliyah is closer to the proster. So there's a svara to say that the dam came from the karoiv, from the aliyah. We're not going to say that. What are we going to say? It came from what? The makar. It came from the roiv. It came from what? The makar, the uterus. So what do you see, guys? You have karoiv, you have roiv. What are you going after? You're going after roiv. So Abraya brings a beautiful raya from the sechta nida to what, to this thing. Fascinating. Amalei Rava, you don't have a raya. Roiv umatzoi ka'amrit. You say about roiv umatzoi. Roiv umatzoi ka'amrit. Roiv umatzoi lekaman da amar. Roiv, guys, means majority. Matzoi means tadir. So there's no one will hold that Koroiv goes ahead and overrides Roiv and Matzoi. So women are Roiv, majority. Tadir, Matzoi, it's Tadir that they see Dam Nida. Aliyah is only Korov. No one's going to hold Roiv and Matzoi versus Korov. That Korov will come closer. You guys, you want to bring a raya to Roiv and Korov. Forget the Matzoi. You want to bring a raya. Abaya, you want to bring a raya to Reb Chanina. What was Reb Chanina's din? Roiv and Korov, oh, not Matzoi, not frequent. Roiv and Matzoi, you go after Roiv. That's what you want to bring a raya. So you bring a raya from Nida. Says Rava, I'm throwing another chink in the armor. By Dam Nida, it's not just Roiv. It's Roiv and Matzoi. It's Roiv and Tadir. So you don't have a raya. You don't have a raya because Tadir also would go ahead and trump. Excuse the pun, would go ahead and trump what? Karoiv. Guys, good? So you have no raya from here because you have Roiv and Matzoi. It says Roiv and Matzoi Karmid, Roiv and Matzoi Lekal Amandiyama. Okay, now there's a shiloh whether you learned the Tani. Let's learn let's learn with Tani. Tani Rav Chia, Dama Nimsa Repraisdar, Chayav Malav. Now, if you find Dam in the Praisdar, so now it's a suffix, right, guys? You find Dam in the Praisdar, so now it's a suffix. Hayav Malav Albiyas Migdash. If a woman going to the base of Migdash, she would be what? She would be Tameh. The Sarfin Labes at Truma, and if she touched Truma, you'd burn it. Now, what does that mean? Guys, outside. Anyone who walks into the base of Migdash when they're Tameh is Chayiv Karis. If they do it B'Shaygei, they bring a carbon Chatas. This woman, who's a suffix where it came from, we're treating it as a Vadai. What's the raya we're treating as a Vadai? Because she's going to bring a carbon Chatas. Suffix truma, if it's suffix tamei, toilin, you don't go ahead and burn it, you don't go ahead and eat it. Over here, we're burning it. Why? Because it's vadai tamei. So we see from these two applications of the halacha of the suffix nida that she will be considered mamish a vadai. So what do you see? You see that what? That mamish roiv, you'll go ahead and treat it as a vadai. Says the Gemara. Of Amar Rava, Shmamina, we hear mid Reb Chia. From Reb Chia, we hear three things. Class. Shmamina roiv v'koroiv holachach aroiv. You have a choice of going after what? The dam from the makar, which is roiv, or the dam from the aliyah, which is karoiv. You're going after the roiv. Now, guys, right away you should ask a question. Isn't Rava the one who just said it's matzoi? Okay, so the Gemara is going to address that in a second, right? Okay, so shmamina roiv v'koroiv. Next, ushmamina ruba de araisa. Shmamina, you hear that roiv is the araisa because you're going ahead, you're burning it. Ushmamina isil Reb Zera. Dam Reb Zera afa pishet losais medina neulois. Even though the doors of the Medina are closed, right? Guys, there's always two roivs. Guys, there's two roivs. If let's say the doors of the Medina were open, so you have to deal with the people in the city and the people from outside the city. It's like the kasha we had before. Maybe it came from Ruba da Alma. So if you have the doors closed, then it's only one roiv. Sometimes you could say there's two roivs. Here there's only one roiv. An isha we're going to view as what? As the doors being closed, only one roiv. Ushmamina shedalsais medina neulois. The ha'isha the chidalsis medina nulas damya va'filu hachi kolazina basaruba. You'll go after roiv, even though there's only one roiv and not two roivs. Good. So we ascertained 3 dinim from the fact that you're burning the truma and you're bringing the carbon chatas. That what's the one din we need? Shmami no roiv v'karoiv. Fred the Gemara v'rava hu dakama roiv v'matzei lekel man the amar. There's no man the Amma who goes ahead and Mat says in that case you don't go after it. And so how can you tell me roiv v'karoiv? You told me it's matzoi. Rava changed his mind. In other words, Rava hold there's no difference between whether matzoi and not matzoi. It's roiv and karov. You're going to go after roiv. Shmamino. Very good. You have the raya. Okay. Since we're on the subject of nida, I think I had time today. I listened to Swirly Bornstein. He brought down a sefer, and from the obscure, this is mamish Valde. As Dr. Breast perks up. This is mamish kaval, guys. This is such a politic poem. I'm telling you, it's crazy. So he quoted a sefer. You know what I did? What I didn't do, but I can do it very quickly because I'm good. I'm getting very good at this. I can even keep the thing on. Open attachment. Very good. Great. Okay, let's get rid of this. This. Okay, so he brought in from a sefer called Cheshkas HaTorah by a person named Rav Moshe Mordechai Schulzinger. And in the sefer he brought in a Maisa. Now, I was zoichet, as I mentioned before, to go to the kever of Meir Simcha. Before we went to Dvinsk, we stopped off in Radin, and we went to the cemetery where the Chafetz Chaim is buried. It's the saddest thing. I don't know if the Nazis or the communists knocked down the whole city, knocked down the whole cemetery. You saw a sign over here, they killed 3,000 Jews, over here they murdered 20. Again, this is all in Lithuania, in that part of the world that the Germans came before Poland, they established the concentration camps. So they machine gunned them to death. So a tremendous amount of death, surrounded by death. They reestablished 3 kfarim. The Chafetz Chaim's kever, Naftali Trop, the famous Granat, Hagoyim Naftali Trop, who was the Rosh Hashiva in Radin, and one more person, Rav Moshe Ledinsky. He was also a co-Rosh Hashiva in Radin. So you had the 2 Rosh Hashivas and the Chafetz Chaim. Those are the 3 kfarim that are there. I never heard, I heard that's the time I learned about who Rav Moshe Ledinsky was at that time. So this person, the Cheshkas Torah, Rav Moshe Mordechai Schulzinger Zatzal, he brings down in a sefer a Maisa. He brings down a Maisa with Rav Moshe Ledinsky that he got married and he was in Bialystok and he was in the Ezras Nashim. And lo and behold, there was another person in the Ezras Nashim who he turned out that he liked to learn with. Somebody you may have heard of, Rav Meir Simcha Koyim in Dvinsk. He was in Bialystok before he became the Rav in Dvinsk, and they learned Bechavusa. So guys, you have to hear this. This is the craziest thing in the world. So he asked him a kasha from this Gemara. He asked him a kasha from this Gemara. Okay? So this is Gemara, guys, in Nida, Daf Chaf, Amid Beis. This is Gemara in Nida, Daf Chaf Amid Beis. So I figured with doing a little bit Nida, we'll discuss this. So Ifra Hermes, now we know who Ifra Hermes is. Remember, we met her a few times. We said her name comes from Ifra Chain, beauty of Chain. She was bewitching like a demon, right? So Ifra Hermes, she was what? She was the mother of what? Of Shava Malka. So what happened? She went ahead and Shadrei Dama L'Kamei de Rava. She sent blood of Rava. She sent dam that came out from her makar. That came out from her, and she sent it to Rava. She wanted to know the status of it. Okay, so Shadrei Dama L'Kamei de Rava, and this is important. Havayasvei Rav Uvadia Kamei. And Rav Avadia was sitting in front of Rava. That's all. Rav Avadia was sitting in front of Rava. Archei, Rava smelled the blood, and Amar Allah, he told it for Hermes, Hai dam chimadhu. This is dam of desire. In other words, in desire to have relations, the dam came out, but it's not dam nida. Rava was able to smell that, and Rava was able to ascertain that. So Amrle Lebrei, she went ahead and she told her son, Techazi kama chachimi yudai. Look how smart the Jews are. It's amazing. You can smell it and know exactly what it is. So Amalei, Shava Malka said to for Hermes, again, he was a Persian king, Dilma Kisuma Baruva. Maybe, like we said, like a blind person in a window. Maybe he just lucked out. So Hada Shadreloi, she sent to Rava, Shisin Mine Dama. She sent to Rava 60 different samples of blood. The Kulu Aminon, and he was able to tell each one. Ahu Basra, however, the last one, Dam Kinam Haya. It was the dam of a louse, of a lice. Yoda, and Rava therefore did not know. So what did Rava do? He sent back 59. Yoda, he didn't know about the 60th. Istaya Milsa, he had Siyata Deshmaya, Vishadallah, and he sent to her a gift, Sirikusa de Mekatla Kalme, a comb that killed lice. Amra, she said, Yehudai, Bisavone Deliba Yasviyu. They live in the portals of your heart. So Rava had Siyata Deshmaya. He went ahead, and he was like, he sent her a gift. And she assumed with this gift that you're sending, right, that he got it. Okay, so what's the Maisa? One of them asked the other one the following question. Why did we bring in Rav Avadia over there? He didn't usually when you bring in somebody, he comes into play. Over there, it simply was a conversation between Rava and the Hermes. What's Avadia doing there? In a second. Now, it doesn't say in the Maisa who asked who. Rav Moshe Ladinsky asked the Meshech Chachma, or the Meshech Chachma spoke to Rav. Okay. Either way, guys, you're going to be blown away in a second. Go back to Daf Chav Beis Amid Aleph. Two lines from the top. Chav Beis Amid Aleph, 2 lines from the top. Amrav Nachma Yitzchak, Umayda Rav Huna Brave Yeshua, we were discussing setting up shop in another city, right? So the peddlers who would go from place to place, Rashi brings, what were they peddling? Woman stuff, right? Makeup and everything. The Gemara says, that Roichlin would go through the city, that ornaments should be found for B'nai Yisrael. So therefore, they let these people go. However, to go from house to house, but to go ahead and set up shop, loy. However, if they were young, if they were Talmidei Chachamim, they went ahead and allowed them to set up shop. The Rava permitted Shari Lahu, Rabbi Yoshia, Ula Rav Avadia, Lakfuye. He let Rav Avadia set up shop. Said Meshech Chachma or Rav Moshe Ladinsky to the other, you know why you mentioned the Gemara in Nida? Where in the world did Rabbi get that comb to send to the woman from? Where did he get the comb from? He got the comb because Rav Avadia was a peddler who peddled stuff in Nashim. Can you imagine the Ga'inus, this little line in one piece of Gemara, how they had shas to say at their fingertips, guys? It's not to be believed. It's not to be believed. I was blown away. I had to share with you. I was totally blown away. A little line in the Gemara in Nida and he asked the Kasha, and in a second, in the book it says, in a second he answered him. It's a Gemara. That Gemara. I think I was just, I don't know, Heshi doesn't seem to be blown away. Hesh, you're not blown away? Wake up. It's unbelievable. You got it. No, guys, unbelievable, no? That is definitely worth blog worthy. It's just unbelievable that, again, the I don't know the word. You know when something's in your bones, you just know it so well. It's like it's part of you. The Talmud was their DNA. Shas was their DNA. It was like saying Ashrei. It was saying Ashrei. It was like Like I told you once, my Rashiva found this person in Bialystok Grada. He asked him to say a Chakira over from Shimon. He said a Chakira, and the person said he doesn't understand. He has five places in Shabbos and Shuvas a Rashba, which is 1,000 Shuvas. He said five places. The amount of the goyness of these people, how Torah was so, it's amazing. It's just amazing. I was so blown away by this Maisa. I had to share with you. It's Gaval Maisa. Vaita in Torah and Yerushalayim. Says the Gemara. So in the middle of the sugya of Roiv, Vikar Roiv, Gaval Maisa. Itmar Chavius Shetzafa B'Nahar. You have a barrel of wine. It's floating in the Euphrates River. Amarav Nimtzas Keneged Ir Sheruba Yisrael. If you find it in the city that is close to a Jewish city, mutter, it's kosher wine. Keneged Ir Sheruba Nachrim. If it's Keneged a city that's right Nachrim, Asira Biyasa Stam Yeinam Ubiyasa. Ushmul Amar. Afilu nimsa keneged ir shruba Yisrael asira, even if it's connect the Ruba Yisrael asira. Now let's figure this out. Rav says if it's closer to a Jewish city, you're good. Closer to a Geisha city, not. Says Shmuel, either way, you're not. Let's go ahead and suggest. Rav says you go after Karov, and Shmuel says you go after Roiv, and Roiv of the world is what is not Jewish. So so l'chayra, that would the Gemara wants to suggest that that's the svara. So Shmuel says, Ema may Ihi Dikra Asi. Let's say it came from the city of Ihi Dikra. That's the name of the city. Iridakra. So Lema bid the Rav Chanina Kamiflagi. Kufa the Rav Machloiksin Rav and Shmuel is in Rav Chanina whether Roiv or Karoiv takes precedent. The Mar Shmuel says Islay the Rav Chanina. He says Roiv or Karoiv, you go after Roiv. In this case, we'll say maybe it came from the city, even though the fact right now the Korov says it's a Jewish city. And Umar, Leslie, and Rav does not hold of that. He holds to go after Korov. Leslie, Reb Chanina. Good, Gishmak. Like, the Kuli Alma Islu Reb Chanina. Everyone holds Reb Chanina. They're arguing over here, right? The Masava in Isa de Mehai Ihi Dakra Asya, Akule Pshuri Havi Matfale. In other words, there's enough impediments along the way to go ahead, and the barrel wouldn't have made it there. It would have got stuck. It would have got broken. In other words, I don't know exactly the types of kuli peshuri, but you get the idea. In other words, there's enough things along the river to stop it from getting to where Rav was, the Jewish city. Umar Sava and Shmuel says no. Charifa de Nahara Nakde. Perhaps what it was. Charif, maybe. Charifa did nothing. Maybe it was in the middle of the river and it took off, and therefore it avoided the impediments in the river. But in Achinami, they can all hold you go after the Roiv. The Shaila there was the Karoiv, maybe it's not a Karoiv. Because why? Because maybe it came from that place. Ahu Chitzva, the Chamra, again, some type of flask of wine. The Ishtach B'Pardisa de Orla. It was found in a paradise of Orla. So Orla is what, 3 years of a fruit-bearing tree. The first 3 years you can't go ahead and have enough from it. So you found this wine in this paradise. The question is, did the wine come from the grapes or not? So Shai Ravina permitted it to go ahead and said it's permitted. Lema Mishum the Sava law Kereb Chanina. Maybe he holds what like Reb Chanina. The Karoiv says it came from that vineyard. The Roiv says that it came from the rest of the world. So let's say also Reb Chanina. Shani Hasam, the Mignav Mina, if it was stolen and stored there, Atznuya Begavele Matzne. He wouldn't have gone ahead and if he would have stole the Chamra from that, he wouldn't have gone ahead and kept it in that yard. But right? He wouldn't have kept it in that yard. So Memela, you really do go after what? It's no raya. Ken Zayin, you go after Karev, but over here, the Imignav Mina, if he would have stolen, it's Nuya Begave Lemetznai. He went to go ahead and stuck it in that yard. Rashi says, Ein derech ganovim, 5 months up. Ein derech ganovim latzniya yayin, b'makom shen gavu. They don't go ahead and hide the wine from the place they stole it. Misham de misyare shema yimsu the derech hanovim. The people who are pressing the grapes, they're going to find them. So therefore, we don't assume that it's Arla, but not because why Reb Chanin is there. We just don't assume that it's Arla. The Hanimili Gemara continues, Chamra. That's if you find wine. Aval inve matzliya, but if you find grapes, then in fact grapes, they would be matzliya. Hanu ziki de chamra, you had this ziki are flasks. They're like leather flasks of chamra, of wine. The ishkakin beikapoi, that they found what? They were hidden in vineyards. They were hidden in vineyards, and the vineyards belonged to Jews. So Sharin and Rava permitted it. Now, l'chayra, this is not like Reb Chanina, guys. Because if you go after Roiv of the world is not Jewish. If you go after the Karoiv, it's found in a Jewish vineyard. So l'chayra, he does not hold like Reb Chanina. So Sharin Rava, lema loy savala le Reb Chanina. Let's see, he doesn't hold like Reb Chanina. Bottom Rashi, leilich acha Roiv, to go after the Roiv. Ela acha Karoiv, he'll go after the Karoiv where you found the flask. The Kan Yisrael Mitzuyim Yosim Minachrim, and over here the more Jews are found in Goyim. You're not going after what? You're not going after in this area after the Roiv. So the Chari doesn't hold. Says we have Naraya, shiny Hasam on the base, the Ruba the Shafchuye the Yisrael Ninu. Most of the people who would pour into these leather flasks were Jews. So the assumption is that a leather flask was found, a Jew poured it in. Bahani Mili, that's Baragrafi. If it's a big flask, then we'll say that it was poured by the Jew. Aval Zutri, if it's a small flask and you find it, I could say maybe it fell from Oivet Rachim and the Roiv of the world is Goyim. So therefore, you would not go ahead and have a raya. So in a bigger flask, right, that most of the people are Jewish, poor, that'll be okay. But if it's smaller, then we'll say it came from Roiv D'Alma. The Ikaraf of Ibadayu, if among the small flasks you have large flasks, Aimer, I will say, the Avrude Havi Manche, they put it there to go ahead and level off. Picture a guy carrying on his shoulders, guys, some type of, and he's carrying on both sides. So let's say one is heavier than the other. To offset it, he put another small flask over there. So the small flask will say what? That also came from the Jew, also came from a Jewish person. That ends the sugya of Roiv V'Karov, obviously a huge sugya, which we went through, Daf Yomi style. Okay, remember the Chem D'Shleima, the nice Chem D'Shleima. I'll just tell you one more very nice ha'ara. I spoke to my son Simcha today. He was to be mechavan to Rebbe Chanan in the Kavit Shiurim. The case we had was of hopping bird. We said if it's outside of 50, that it didn't come from the Shaivich, that it came from Alma, and therefore anyone who finds it, right, will go after Roiv. And Roiv, so Roiv, it's not the Shaivich. Good. We saw Masech the Baba Kama, Ein Holchem B'Mama Acha Roiv. When it comes to money, guys, monetary matters, you don't go after Roiv. You don't go after the majority. So why over here, this is a monetary matter, whether you keep the bird or give it to the Baal Shaivach, if you don't go after, the only reason you're saying it's what, it's an Aveda is because you're going after Roiv. But we know, Ein Holchem B'Mama Acha Roiv. So I asked my son Simcha, and he answered beautifully. Guys, when do you say Ein Holchem B'Mama Acha Roiv, that's to take it away from a person who's muchsik in it, if he's holding on to it. Good? In other words, if a person's holding on to it, we always give of the chazaka, he has it. In order to be moitzi from that person, ain't holchem b'machem acha roiv. But where there is no muchsik, like in this case, the animal's hopping along, then even by money you go after roiv. It's a good yesay to know, guys. It's a good yesay to know. And svaridik also. It's svaridik also. If a person has holding on to something, it's yours until proven otherwise. Your bias, your ownership is until proven otherwise. Eidim, shtarais, whatever. Right. So therefore, for Roiv, you won't go ahead and say Roiv to go ahead and take away from the muksik. Don't go after mom and after Roiv. Mashenkin, where there is no muksik, no one's holding on to it, there you would. Beautiful teretz from Simcha, who is Mechav to Rabbi Chanan in the Kleivet Shiurim. Okay, says the Mishnah. Marchikim esa ilan min ha'ir, esem v'chamesh ama. You distance an ilan from a city, 25 amas. Now we're going to see this is nothing to do with Nezikin, fellas. This has to do with Noi ha'ir. There's a city is beautiful. If it doesn't have cities, trees going up to the walls. Imagine you go see a walled city. You need an area around the city open to give it beauty. So therefore, in order to enhance the beauty of the city, we will not go ahead and plant any tree within 25 amas of the city. However, if it's a sycamore tree, or if it's a boxer tree, what's that? A carob, chamishim ama. That's 50. Rashi says because these have a lot of leaves, so that'll take away from the noy. Abba sholoimer kol ilin srak chamishim ama. Any non-fruit bearing tree would be 50 amas, even if they don't have so many leaves. I guess it's not so nice if it's not fruit. So any fruit bearing tree, not. Ve'ima ir kadma. Let's say the city came first, and a person went against the rules and planted. You're going to cut it down, and you will not give him what? You not reimburse him. You'll cut it down. You went against the rules. We'll cut down your tree and not reimburse you. Then Elon Kodim, if the tree was there before they built the city, and now it's within 25 amis, Kaitzaitz will cut it down, the nice and dumb, and we'll go ahead and pay the person, right? We'll pay the person. Suffix Zekodim, suffix Zekodim, we don't know. Kaitzaitz very nice and dumb. You cut it down and you won't pay him up. So let's go. We have a din of 25 noi. We have a din of 50 for certain, either according to Rabbi Shol, non-fruit bearing trees, or a sycamore tree or carved tree. We have a suffix. So in a vadai, whatever came first, we're going to cut it down either way. The question is, does the guy get reimbursed or not? If he came first, he gets reimbursed. If he didn't come first, he doesn't. Suffix, then we won't reimburse. Okay, we'll have to see the Gemara. My timer, what's the reason that you leave the 25 amis? Amar ula mishum noi ha'ir. You're going to leave the 25 amis, guys, because of what? The noi ha'ir, because the beauty of the city. The beauty of the city, you want the city beautiful, you're going to leave it. Now, there's a halacha, guys, of a migrish. There's a halacha of a migrish that around the city, you're supposed to leave 1,000 amis. We learned from the city of Levim, you leave 1,000 amis. Fred the Gemara of a typically, right? Dein oisin soda migrosh. You can't go ahead and make a soda outside the city to be the migrosh, which is elef amas around the city. Below migrosh soda. No, can you make a migrosh a soda? So in other words, what are you worried about trees, guys? You can't plant a soda up to 1,000 amas. Guys, you're telling me the following: 25 amas away from the city, you could plant a tree. Within 25, you can't. How can you plant anything? We said in Masechta Erchin, you're not allowed to plant within 1,000 amas. Good. Says the Gemara, like Sricha, Ela Rebbe Laza. According to Rebbe Laza, the Omar, he says in Masechta Erchin, this din of the Migrush is by Ori Laviyim, it's us to make a Sada Migrush. Oisa Sada Migrush and Migrush Sada, you could do it. But Hacha, Mishum Noya Ir, Loyav Dinan. Right? But over here, Mishum Noyav, so therefore, Rebbe Laza is of the opinion that what? Oisa Sada Migrush and Migrush Sada. Hacha, Mishum Noya Ir, Loyav Dinan. So in other words, Rebbe Laza is of the opinion there's no such thing as a Migrush. You can make a Sada. You can go ahead and plant all you want. However, 25 amas you can't plant. Why? Because of the Noya of the city. So 700, 1 second, 975, you could. 25 you can't. That's so it's going through Rebbe Laza. So that's the Chiddush. Another teretz, right? Another teretz. That's Zeroyim. In other words, this din of migrash that you can't plant is where you plant a field. You plant crops. Planting trees enhances the beauty up to 25. You could do. So in other words, I could plant trees up 975. Even the one who says you can't make a migrash, a sadeh, that's when speaking about what? About seeds. But if it's speaking about what? Trees, that you could plant with only up to 25. Aminat Tamra, where do you know the chilik between trees and fields? Guys, in other words, I think we know what ourselves innately. A tree it beautifies something. A field is a property. It's not for beauty. It's not for beauty. It's for what? It's for practical. It's practical. In other words, we speak about trees being a besimcha sitting underneath a tree. It sees that the malachim would have trees planted. In Israel, plant a tree. If you have a back lot that's more than a karf, that's more than Beis Hasayim, right? Now it depends. This is of Erevin fame. Again, can you carry it in there or not? If it has a shem diro, you could carry it, it means it's part of your house. If it's not part of your house, you can't. So the following is a raya to this din that ilonos are to enhance beauty, whereas zroyim is more practical. So uminot taimra, the chilik between trees and zroyim and crops. The shiny bein zroyim leilonos, the tanya, karfif, a back lot, yoisemi beis asayim, shehukaf ledira. It's more than beis asayim. It's surrounded for the purpose of a dira. Nizra ruboy, if you go ahead and plant a field majority, then Rashi says, but loy, it's going to be batal l'shem dira, and you won't be able to carry there. Baharihu kegino, it's like a garden, a separate place. For asa, it's asa to carry there in Shabbos. Nita ruboy, guys, nita means a tree, a sapling. You plant a sapling, ruboy, but then harihu kechlotzer, you'll have a didmat of a chotzer. A chotzer, of course, you could carry in. So what do you see? You see from here this analog to Masechta Erevin that a tree enhances the beauty of something. It's not considered batal it's not mevatal l'shem dira, and so therefore it wouldn't be mevatal l'shem city. Masha'en came the Zroyim would be mevatal. That's the chiluk between the two. That even the one the Rabbanan would say you can't make a soda migrash, that's planting Zroyim, but trees you could plant. But trees in fact you could plant. Okay. The next thing of the Mishnah, we said if the city came first, the Emir Kadma, Kaitzis Vein nice and Damin. Okay. Now, on the next page, guys, take a look. Turn a page. Marchikim es Elon min abar, esem v'chamesh ama. You should be very familiar with this. It's Machlokes Rabbi Yossi and the Chachamim. You distance a tree from a bar 25 amis. If the bar was there first, then you go ahead, you cut it down, and you pay. Then Elan kadim, and if the Elan's there, lo yikutz, you don't cut it down. Suffix there kadim, suffix there kadim, lo yikutz, you don't cut it down at all. Okay, so this is the case of the Sefer, backed by us. Maishna Gabe bar, right? By bar it says that the Bala Elon, he has to go ahead and distance his bar 25 amis, and if he plants, it's usher for the bar. The im not the Elon, he planted the Elon incorrectly, right? He planted the Elon incorrectly. Kaitzitz, then you cut it down. So over there, you're going to go ahead and cut it down. Again, he did it illegally over there, right? He did it illegally, right? What did he do? Chafei. Marcus is Im habar kadma. Guys, here's the question. Guys, look at the Yomi base again. Im habar kadma. So he did it illegally, correct? The one who planted now, he shouldn't have planted. What would you think the din should be? I would say he loses his tree, and you don't have to make up the money. What does it say? It says you do make up the money. Yet by us, if he did it illegally, you cut it down and you don't pay him. What's the difference between the two? Our Mishnah, the illegal guy, you knock down his tree and you don't reimburse him. By the bar, with the bar for that came before, you go ahead and he did it illegally, you cut it down, but you reimburse him. What's the difference? What's the difference between the city where you don't reimburse and what's the difference between bar where you do reimburse? That's the Gemara's kasha. Fred Gemara, Maishna Reisha or Maishna Seifa. What's the difference? The Reisha by city where you're not reimbursing, and Maishna the Seifa that you are reimbursing, and Maishna Seifa that you are reimbursing. Amar Abaya, Seifa asan legoirin she'ena kavua. Excuse me. I know what I'm talking about. One second. Amar Rav Kahana. One second. Maishna goy bought the 20 kites nice and damin. Maishna hacha the 20 kites nice and damin. Right over here you don't pay. Over there you do. Amar Rav Kahana. Kidra the base shutfei. A kedera of 2 shutfin. Right? It's not hot and not cold. A cook A pot with two cooks never gets cooked. Each guy passes the buck to the other. So what's the teretz over here? So what's the teretz over here? Let's see Rashi. Right before he gets wide, about 5 lines up. This one says you'll cook it. This one says you'll cook it. Afkan, the Meo Elon, mi yitnam. The Meo Elon, who's going to pay? Imba latila mal b'nei ir. If you're going to go ahead and tell the people in the city to pay, kol echad oimer, mimeni lo yaschilu. Don't begin with me. The nimsa Elon oimed, v'ha'ir meguna, v'ein zu teferes Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael, we want it to be beautiful, right? We want Eretz Yisrael to be beautiful, and if we're going to go ahead and say you have to pay, no one's going to pay. If you don't pay, the tree is going to remain standing. So what do we say? Cut down the tree and don't compensate. The guy did nothing wrong. Says Rashi, because of the beauty of Eretz Yisrael, we don't want to go ahead and keep the tree around. Therefore, kaitzeitz ve'eina nice and damen. Therefore, kaitzeitz ve'eina nice and damen. Vashenkin by bar. Okay, so that's the teretz. Says the Gemara one more time. And therefore, the people of the city, no one's going to go ahead and pay it. And therefore, the tree is going to remain. The tree is going to remain. It's going to take away from the beauty of Eretz Yisrael. My kushya, I give a partial teretz. By a city, you speak about a rabbin. By the bar, you speak about an individual. By the rabbin, even though he was first, tough luck. It's individual. Guess what? You did nothing wrong. So the guy goes ahead. He had to give you back money. Says the Gemara, Elawat. So therefore, we have to come up with a difference. So what's the other difference? So says the Gemara. If you want to learn Rav Kahana's memra of a pot with two cooks doesn't get cooked, it doesn't go on that case. It goes on the last case. Itman. If the Elon came first, if the Elon came first, you cut it down and you give him money. Why don't you say first go ahead and give me money and then I'll cut it down? Why does he have to cut it down first? In other words, if you're waiting to get the money, you're not going to get the money. If you're waiting to get the money, you're not going to get the money. Right? So what do? You tell them, cut it down, and then you get paid. But again, because in Eretz Yisrael, we want to go ahead and cut it down. If you're waiting to get the money, then it's not going to cut it down. So it's not going in the case of where the guy did it illegally. It's speaking about the case where he did it legally. He was there first. And therefore, first you kites is that nice and dumb him. Why not, guys? Why not nice and dumb him, and then I'll cut it down? Why first kites it and then nice and dumb him? Because nice and dumb him, each guy's going to pass the buck, and they'll stay. Mela, if first kite says, then I'll go ahead. Look, I cut it down. Where's my money? I'll go to Bezdin and I'll make a claim. Guys, good? You hear the difference in the duration of the Sefer. The Sefer is going on where he did it illegally. This is speaking about where it was legally. He came before the city. So nice and dumb him after he cuts it down. The dinner of Kahana is explaining why you first don't give him money and then cut it down. Why you first cut it down and give the money. The last thing in the Mishnah, Sefer, a suffix zekadim. The suffix zekadim, kaitis vein nice and damim, you cut it down. Maishnami bar the amit lo yikaitz, right? By bar you say you don't have to cut it down. Hasam and for the Gemara, hasam devadai lavla make its koi. There, in the case of the bar, if the tree was there first, you don't have to cut it down. Guys, in the case of the bar, if the tree was there first, you don't have to cut it down. It's only if the bar was there first. In our Mishnah, side by side, the guy's losing the tree, whether he was first or he was last. You're cutting it down. You hear the difference. In the Sefer, the din is if he was first, you're not going to cut it down. If the tree was first, before the bar. Over here in our Mishnah, you're cutting it out side by side. The only question is whether he's getting recompensated or not. So that's the difference. Hasam over there by bar, right? The vaday lavla make its koi. Vaday, it's not going to be cut down. Why? Because it was there first, you don't cut it down. Sveikei nami lo yamrina le koitz. We don't tell you cut it down. It's a suffix. Hacha in our Mishnah by ear, the vaday la make its koi. Side by side, it doesn't make a difference whether it came first or last. Sveikei nami amrina le koitz. V'mishum demei amrina le I see raya v'shakol. Why are you getting recompensated? Bring a raya that you came first, and then you'll be recompensated.